All right. Evening, everybody. How are we? It is what's today? Wednesday. It's Wednesday. It's midweek. Doing this live because it feels like we've spoken about NFT scams like twice in the space of a week already. And I just wanted to make this because um I think it's important we have a conversation around the NFT hype at this point in time. I think it feels a little bit like AMC GME, only it's not in Reddit groups and it's not um, kind of like this massive. Well, it doesn't feel like it's this massive thing that has this massive hysteria behind it, but there is still quite a lot of hype around NFTs, and this is the second one. Well, this is most definitely a legit rug pull from all of the sources, all of the commentary that's online. This is definitely a rug pull, a scam. And I know I spoke about board bunnies last week. There is still a little bit of contention around that, whether it is or whether it isn't. There are some that are actually opening. I think what happened with board bunnies is there were a lot of scam sites that popped up that people went to go and mint on, not realizing that they were minting on a scam site. And actually, I had an email from somebody who actually fell victim to that. Now, this one that we're going to talk about today is essentially it's another one which strangely was verified by Civic Past, was actually promoted by Solana Art, and it just goes to show that sometimes, even if you do research, you can get it wrong. Even people like Solana Art and Civic Past, they got it massively wrong, and now people are down. People have lost money. Now, in most cases, some people only lost a few $100, $300, I think is what the mint amount was actually for. But because of the way the scheme was set up, many people lost 10,000, thousands of pounds. I mean, these guys walked off with 1.2 million. And one thing that I noticed in the live that I did last week when we talked about board bunnies was people were saying, well, why would anyone do a rug pull for a scam for $8 million? Because it was $8 million supposedly for board bunnies last week. And it's like, when did we get like really nonchalant about the fact that people are walking away with 1.2 million in this instance right here, and all of a sudden that's supposed to be peanuts, like it's not supposed to be life changing? Like, we need a knock on the head, just like reality check, guys. Like, a million, 1.2 million is still life changing money. And we don't know who these people are. They could be in Timbuktu, they could be in Kenya, they could be your next door neighbors. We don't know who these people are. And this is the issue when it comes to NFTs, when it comes to crypto in general. This is still very much an unregulated environment. And we can have this discussion about regulation and why it shouldn't be in crypto and why it should be in crypto. It needs to be in crypto for these kind of examples specifically. And I've titled this why you should why you should reconsider NFTs. And I know it's going to anger all of the pro NFT people here on YouTube, but we need to have a serious conversation about what's happening right now, because this get rich quick, let's go and buy an NFT and then flip that and make money as if the world gives it to us for free. Nothing is free. And the story behind the guys who actually started Big Daddy Ape Club, apparently this isn't their first rodeo. They tested and tried and failed. And this, I think, is the third, fourth, maybe fifth attempt where they've actually succeeded to make some money. I was reading, and I'll show you the Twitter thread in a moment. Apparently, they did actually do one where they managed to get 2.5 million quid. So when I talk about being really pragmatic and trying to be very, very cognizant of the things that you're watching here on YouTube, people think I'm being a party pooper and I'm this old, I guess, boring guy who basically tries to warn people off things. But I cannot overstate how important it is. Now, the really ironic and sad thing is that people will only learn once they've made a mistake, once they've been victim of a scam, once something has happened where they've lost their hard-earned cash. And $300 here, $400 there, 2,000, 5,000 here. It still lines the pockets of people. Now, I hope that With this particular scam, there will be some comeuppance for the cretins who've actually done this. Because let's be frank, they've stolen $1.2 million from people, from hard working people who were basically just trying to find a way for their money to work a little bit harder, especially in times like this when we have huge inflation, property prices going through the roof, wages are stagnant, nothing in your savings in terms of the interest rates that you can basically get. So naturally, you're going to go to these kind of things and you're going to try and make your money work harder. The sad thing is that there are so many and I'm going to try and be kind to the kind of YouTubers who push these kind of things, because I genuinely hope and believe that there's a large portion of them who are genuinely just trying to provide information and demonstrate their journey. But there is a large portion of them, or at least a portion of them, that will be fully aware of the fact that actually this could be a rug pull, this could be a scam. Some people might lose some money if they go into this, but the fact is they simply do not care. And I think if you are searching on YouTube for NFTs and you're paying attention specifically to NFTs that will do 10x, 20x, 100x, you are going to inevitably find yourself in a position where you will come across scam NFTs and scam projects. That is just the way the world works, because you're looking and searching for things that are going to earn a quick buck. Nothing is free in life. Now, I did a little bit of searching and looking, and it's interesting because I couldn't figure out, and this is what a lot of the people are basically saying. So they minted this NFT yesterday, and straight off the bat, they closed down they muted their Discord group. So within the Discord group, you couldn't warn people, you couldn't communicate, you couldn't ask questions, you couldn't do anything. And the way it worked out was you need to connect your MetaMask wallet or your crypto wallet to it. And what they basically did is they would allow you to mint, but send you an error message. So if in your wallet you had, I don't know, 60 Solana, for example, because it was done on the Solana, right? If you had 60, every time that you had an error and you retried, it was going to charge you that 2 Solana every single time. So therefore, you have people who had done multiple transactions, and this is now irreversible. It's completely gone. But Solana Art actually promoted this, and Civic Pass also promoted this. Now, when I had a look at the Civic Pass website earlier today, let me see if I can actually get this up. And this is the one thing where I hope accountability is going to come to the forefront here, because at the end of the day, and I'm going to share my screen with you in a moment, if you have a look at what people like Civic Pass basically do, they are supposed to do ID checks on the people who are the heads of these kind of projects. And it seems as though their process, whatever system that they were running, has failed horribly. So this is their website right here, and it basically tells you what it is that they basically search for and what they're supposed to be doing. So with Verified by Civic Pass, creators can verify their true real-world identities with Civic in order to build trust within communities. After completing our verification process, the project will be added to the gallery below as proof of having verified by Civic Pass. Civic performs the following verification steps: verification of control of project Twitter handle. Well, like, that one right there really does bother me. That is so loose and so poor. You verify the Twitter handle. Okay, so how do you do that? Verification of control of project domain. Okay, maybe there's some KYC that goes in the background to that as well. Identity verification of project founders, including ID documents, ID document capture, and limited scope documentation verification. What does that mean? Limited scope document verification. What does that mean exactly? So what are they actually taking? This is loose language for me. And people were kind of lauding this as this whole thing of, well, they've done this check and they're verified by these people. This should be adequate enough. Now, if this space was regulated, they would have a prescribed list of things that they must take as proof of ID, proof of verification. Limited scope documentation verification. What is that? How do they verify it? Could I go and get a forged driver's license and use that as my proof of ID with a fake name. How do they go about verifying these people? We don't know this. It says 3D face scan of individual completing verification. Okay, that sounds good. At least hopefully you can't fake your facial scan. So if this is true, they should know exactly who this person is. They should have a face scan of this person. Now, whether the name and the face of the perpetrators of this tally up is a completely different kettle of fish. Because again, we don't know how deep they go into verification. If this was in the UK, KYC, we would be doing address confirmations, electoral roll confirmations. We'll be looking at passport, driver's license, bank statements. Is this what these guys do? We don't know. But again, this space is completely and utterly unregulated, so we don't know what quality checks they're actually doing. This stuff, for all we know, could just be words on a website. Facial match comparison between the 3D face of the live user to their 2D photo document. Sounds like really good tech. But how does that actually work in practice? We don't know. Sanction PEP and adverse media list screening. So at least they're doing a little bit of screening here and there. But if you're a new person coming into a space, starting a new project, and you could probably hire somebody off Fiverr, and this is the rumors that are floating around at the moment, that these guys got someone off Fiverr to basically do this process. Well, how do you know? If you haven't got anything bad about you in the press because you're a fresh person, what happened? Did they do criminal checks? We have no idea. These are the reasons why we need verification in this space and regulation in this space, because this kind of process becomes something that has to be followed, adhered to a very, very high standard by a regulatory body that if you get it wrong, you are held culpable for it. Now, the good news is if you go on to Civic Pass on Twitter, they are actively trying to communicate with people. And this, I do think, is very, very comforting for people who have relied on them and they've used their Civic Pass as a means of perhaps doing some due diligence, and they became comfortable with this project, which is now basically rug pulled. So what they're saying here, we're in direct contact with the US-based authorities and will be fully cooperating with them. We are encouraged to report this step in. This is a step in the right direction. Now, I'm not being funny. They had a tweet which said, contact the FBI. The authorities in the United States are not going to do anything. Why? Because it is not a regulated space. We don't know where the guys who started this project are actually from. Now, if you want to go and check out the thread where we found out that this is not their first rodeo, this is the thread right here by Soul Rarity. And it's really, really interesting to read, actually, because it details how they actually came about realizing that this was not a legit thing. So this first started in December, they say, when we experimented as a spectator. So they were a spectator. We wanted to add the rarity ranking for this project minutes after the mint started, but there was something strange. They had no mint instructions in the transactions, only transfers. So they minted and they're starting to transfer Sol or whatever it is into other wallets, which is exactly what they've done this time. And if you read through this entire thread, it tells you how they started to realize that actually this is not their first time around. This one in particular, they identified that one of their previous projects was Baller Ape Club. So some of you may know this project, being very new to the ecosystem. I didn't, but it was the only element that I didn't check. So I made some searches on YouTube. You know what? The project was a $2 million rug pull. So basically, they've been learning and they've just been repeating the process over and over again. And they actually talk within this thread and talk about how this time they thought they'd take it to the next level and actually get verified using Civic Pass, which is an indictment on the process of trying to verify these people and what Civic Pass is even saying that they are doing as a company. Now, under normal circumstances, you would like to think that the responsibility to reimburse these people who have lost out, hardworking people who have lost out during this, will be solely down to Solanart for promoting and advertising the project, and Civic Pass for their role in verifying somebody. But the reality is, does Civic Pass have $1.2 million sat on an account to be able to compensate people? Probably not. Do they have insurance to actually cover people? Probably not. Do Solana Art have the same? Probably not. And even if they did, I will guarantee you right now that they'll probably fight tooth and nail to ensure that they're not the ones who are left holding the bag in this entire situation. So when I say you should reconsider NFTs, I don't say that jump into conclusions. I'm looking at based on what we're seeing at the moment in this space. I can guarantee you there are so many NFT projects out there right now. I can guarantee you there will be more than a handful of them who will be exactly the same as this. Rug pulls that are basically just being repeated. These guys who did this are probably working on the next project right now because guess what? They're probably so brazenly confident that they're not going to be found and can't be found that they will just rinse and repeat this over again. And I think the overarching lesson within this is you need to have your wits about you. And you absolutely need to be mindful of the kind of things that you're searching on YouTube. If you go looking for 10x, 100x opportunities, you are going to find one of these things that is potentially going to be a rug pull or going to be a scam. That is just the sad reality of it. Unfortunately, because this area is unregulated, there are lots of unscrupulous people out here who have no compunction about taking your money and sailing off into the sunset with it. That's just the reality of where we are. So please be careful. And it's so sad because you talk about doing research. That even casts a doubt on doing research now. How do you know that it's legit? How do you know? It's like a gamble now. You just do not know. I said it on a video where I was on Aaron Knightley's channel. We were talking about NFTs. And my philosophy is this. And look, NFT heads might jump on me and say, you don't know what you're talking about, Pete. People did on the last one. But I tell you what, I've been in the industry for 16 years. I've been around investing for 16 years. The trends are exactly the same almost every single time. The behaviors are the same almost every single time. The only thing that changes is what's being sold. That's the only thing that changes. So, in my opinion, you should be looking at projects that have a brand behind it, not a team of just programmers somewhere in the ether in California or in Timbuktu or in Sri Lanka or wherever underneath your nan's bed. You need to be looking at projects that potentially have brand behind them. And I don't want to list off any, but I have got a number that I'm actually looking at the moment. And I don't want to make videos on NFTs and start talking about, project this and project that. I think it's just dangerous. I couldn't sleep at night if I made a video about a project that ended up being a rug pull. And I know that there are tons of videos right now on YouTube, one of which I was looking at earlier, comments disabled, comments taken down because that channel had heavily pushed this project. Did he know it was going to be a rug pull? Probably not. But maybe he did. Who knows? You should really strongly consider NFTs in times like this. Because I can guarantee you, and I'll say it again for the last time, if you search YouTube looking for 10x, 100x, 50x opportunities, you're going to be inviting yourself into one of these. And that is the sad truth about it. So I hate to be the bearer of bad news, I should say. And I hate to be the party pooper again, asking people to be careful. And I know that people will get bored of it and think this is ridiculous and all this kind of stuff. But at the end of the day, I don't care. I don't have any interest in people losing money or people making money here on the internet. What I do care about is people having a really bad experience when it comes to investing, and then that puts them off for life, and then they have a really bad experience and ultimately give up on something that in the long term actually pays a lot of dividends. This is the problem with society today. We're too concerned about short-termism. We're too concerned about looking at the guy who's wearing a Rolex, who's driving a Mercedes-Benz on Instagram, and hoping that we had what he had because he's with a fit bird on the beach, or he's traveling to Dubai and he's doing this and that and that. Actually, we don't know the reality behind any of it. We don't know whether he's rented that car, whether he's leased that car, whether he owns that car, whether he actually hates the missus. They're in a horrible relationship. He could be an absolutely horrible person at heart, but all we basically do is idolize people on Instagram who's picture themselves to have this perfect life without really appreciating what it is that we actually have. And that then participates this whole issue in this vicious cycle of going on YouTube, going on social media, looking for ways to get rich quickly. And all you're doing is you're laying yourself victim to the scammers who are the ones who are going to make themselves rich off your greed and your inability to be discerning and content maybe of the content of what you live on a day-to-day basis, being grateful for it. Gratitude is so important. It doesn't matter where you're at in life, what you're doing, you are further ahead than you were 2 to 3, 4 years ago. And sometimes we just need to take a moment just to sit back and just look at where we are, look where we came from, and be appreciative of it. Until we're able to do that, we're never going to be happy with where we are. And until we're happy with where we are and who we are always going to be looking for the next thing that we compare ourselves to. And that in itself is dangerous. It's very, very dangerous. I talk about investing here on the internet because at the end of the day, it is the way the wealthy have always created wealth since the dawn of time. Now we're in this beautiful place where it is available to retail investors, to every man, woman, child on the street, as long as you're old enough to begin investing. Education, patience, knowledge is the most important thing. Not getting quick rich overnight because you bought an NFT that 2x's or 3x's overnight, if you're lucky. Those chances are few and far between. And by the time you've heard it in the news or heard of this stock that's going to 10x and the news are on YouTube, you're probably too late anyway. But anyway, that's my rant. It's done. Look, people won't agree with me. I'm sure that the comment section will be very, very interesting. But at the end of the day, it needs to be said. If you found value in this, please do share with it. But please, please be careful of NFTs in this space. It is the wild, wild west out here. But guys, have a good evening, whatever it is that you do. I will see you again on Friday for another video. Cheers.